Hi, I'm Laura from St. John the Baptist Parish Library, and for the month of October, I am going to be sharing this video on how to spot jump scares in horror movies, scary movies, slasher movies, any type of movie that gets you in the Halloween spirit. First of all, I just want to say Happy Halloween. It's coming up, and throughout the month of October, everybody starts to watch their favorite scary movies or Halloween-themed movies. The purpose of this video is really supposed to be how to help you watch these movies and kind of identify the methods that these directors use to scare you. And it's kind of cool, once you figure out how to do it, you can tell when something is about to happen. You can start to identify the themes and the patterns and the camera work that's used, and prevent yourself from being scared by it. And that might not be for everybody. Some people might want to be scared by the movie that they're watching. That might be why they're watching it. But it is kind of cool to see that you can kind of tell when something's coming if you know these methods. So first off, we're going to start by talking about the art of the camera angle, because that's really what these directors use that the normal average everyday movie viewer isn't going to be able to pick up on, because they don't know the technicalities of camera angles. They don't know the methods. They don't know why these directors are using these angles and what the goal is. But it is psychological, and it does change the way that you are viewing the movie without you knowing. So camera angles in horror films are crucial for creating tension, unease, and emotional impact. They utilize techniques like high angles, low angles, and Dutch angles, some of which are going to be the ones that we're talking about, to manipulate your perception of the movie. So we're going to be talking about 4 specific ones today during this video, and how it evokes fear in the audience. So the 4 camera angles that we're going to be talking about are the tracking shot, the low angle shot, the point of view shot, and the over the shoulder shot. Knowing these angles is the best method to anticipate a scare that may be coming in the movie that you're watching. First, we're going to be talking about the tracking shot. Tracking shots are used very effectively in horror and thriller films to show that a character is being followed or watched. They're also used in other movie genres, just if somebody's walking by, the camera might follow them. These are also known as dolly shots, because early in the days of movie making, the technology that was used was called a dolly, but now there's lots of different ways and lots of different cameras and equipment that can be used to create a tracking shot, so we call it a tracking shot now. As the camera is moving, though, the suspense builds up because you don't know what comes next. The most famous, probably, example of a tracking shot in the movie is this shot from The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. But there are lots of different examples. I know that the movie Halloween with Michael Myers as the main antagonist has a long scene where the victim is running and running and running and running, and Michael Myers is following her. Basically, just when you see that the victim in the horror movie is being chased, it's pretty self-explanatory what's going to happen. They're either going to get caught or they're going to get away, and there's going to be some kind of suspenseful scene where they're hiding. So that's just something to look out for. But a tracking shot is whenever the camera is moving along with the subject, when they're running, walking. In this kid's case, he's pedaling, but that is something to look out for. And we're going to move on to the next shot. The low angle shot. These shots emphasize how scary or intimidating the antagonist is, because it makes you, the viewer, feel below them, because you literally are, the camera is below them. The example that I've chosen is from The Invisible Man, directed by James Whale. This is kind of the height of the movie where the Invisible Man is at his most crazy, I guess. So seeing him from that low angle, like you know that he is intimidating. He is something to be scared of. I think that the most clever use of this shot is when it's used on a character that you don't necessarily perceive as a threat yet, because subconsciously, when you see that character in that angle, you feel a little uneasy and you don't know why. So it's important to pay attention to which camera angles are used for which characters early on in the movie, and that might be a method of knowing who the antagonist, who the scary person, scary character in this movie is going to be later on. The third shot that we're going to be talking about is point of view. This shot is used so the audience is able to see the film through the eyes of the character. It's popular in these types of movies, horror movies, because it makes the audience feel more fear, as if what's happening could be happening to them, because you're seeing it through the character's eyes instead of watching the character on screen. It's kind of like you're going through what this character is going through. If a point of view shot is being used, 100% something is coming. 100%, I shouldn't say 100%, but 99% of the time something is coming. Some kind of jump scare is going to happen. Especially when the camera is really shaky, because the person is shaking, because they're scared. You can pretty much bet on the fact that some kind of action, some kind of scare is going to happen on the screen. They don't use that camera angle on accident. The example that I've chosen for this is the Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project, they use it in kind of an interesting, unique sort of way, where instead of being a point of view shot where you're literally seeing through the eyes of the character, this character is holding a handheld camera and taking a video of themselves while they're scared. And if you've seen this movie, you know that this is one of the scariest parts of the movie because of what happens next. So I'd say that pay attention to whether or not, whose point of view are you seeing in the movie? Are you literally in the character's shoes when it happens instead of seeing them physically on screen? Because it's a pretty good indication that something scary is about to happen. And then the last shot that I want to talk about in this video is the over-the-shoulder shot. This is one of the most common shots used in horror movies. It's used especially around mirrors and reflections, just like in the example here that I have from Midsommar. It's so that the audience can see what's happening as soon as or before the character does. It's used a lot when the antagonist is right behind the victim, the subject of the movie. So in this example that I've used from Midsommar, obviously it's one of the ones with a mirror reflection where there's something behind her, she sees it in the mirror, and then she freaks out. That's not really useful for a jump scare. This is the jump scare that we're seeing right here. The scare has already happened, and then there's going to be action that follows. But in the situation where you're seeing an over-the-shoulder shot, the camera is behind the subject, looking over their shoulder. The camera in that situation is the villain, is the antagonist. 9 times out of 10, the antagonist is going to be behind the victim, and then you'll get a shot of the victim turning around, or you'll be screaming at the movie, begging the victim to turn around and see what's behind them. And then there'll be a jump scare that happens when you finally see it from the character's point of view. The example that I've shown isn't that, but if you do see an over-the-shoulder shot that doesn't have a mirror or a reflection in it, then a jump scare is coming 9 times out of 10, and you should pay attention to what's going to happen next. So all of this is just methods that you can use if you start paying attention to the camera angles that are used in horror movies. If you start paying attention to the way that the camera moves, the intention behind the shots, you can kind of get a sense of what is going to happen later on. It may not be immediately, and it may be immediately. It may be that a jump scare is coming and you can close your eyes real quick and anticipate that that's coming. There are obviously a lot of other cues that go along with this. There's the use of color theory and the choices of lighting. There's music, there's sound effects, there's a lot of things, and then just paying attention to the narrative of the story, where we are. Are we at a point where there's going to be a scare? But camera angles is really a crucial step to figuring out what's going to happen in a movie, because a lot of people don't know what to look for. So I hope that this video was helpful, and have a great Halloween, and I hope that you're able to watch a scary movie and maybe be a little bit less scared of it because of this video. Thanks for watching.